If you've never heard of me, let me introduce myself properly. I'm Kai, thief, heartbreaker, master of clever exits, and yes, occasionally morally questionable. My motto? If it's shiny, it's all miney. You probably know me from headlines like The Sultan's Crown Stolen in Broad Daylight or Who Left a Trail of Gold Coins Across the Market. Yeah, that's me. And tonight, I was about to make history again. The Sultan's vault was supposed to be the ultimate payday. Golden chests, jewels the size of my fist, and the legendary prize, the golden lamp. Dusty, old, probably worth a small fortune. Or, as I preferred, a fortune that belonged in my pocket. I slid past guards like a shadow and pried open the vault door with a grin that would have made any thief proud. Inside, mountains of treasure sparkled under the torchlight. My eyes practically hummed with joy. Yep, I muttered. This is what success smells like. And then I saw it, a small, unassuming lamp sitting on a pedestal. I reached for it and immediately regretted it, because the moment my fingers brushed the gold, the air exploded in smoke. Thick, purple-tinged smoke. Sparks flew. My hair smelled like fire for 3 seconds before I realized, and out of the cloud strode a man, half-dressed, muscles that clearly violated several laws of physics, skin the color of storm clouds kissed by moonlight, hair long enough to get tangled in jewelry if he moved the wrong way, and eyes, green like molten emeralds, judging me. My heart tried to punch a hole through my ribs as swirls of smoke shaped themselves into, was that a giant man? Was I hallucinating? I staggered back, dagger raised with shaking hands. This was not any kind of trap I'd planned for. For about 2 seconds, all I could do was stare and try not to hyperventilate. Nope, not hallucinating. Still there, still huge, still real. Okay, Kai, get it together. Ugh, he groaned, tossing his long hair back. Another amateur treasure hunter. What century is it this time? Amateur? I asked, cocking an eyebrow. Honey, I've stolen more crowns than you've had hot dinners. And trust me, dinner is the least of your concerns right now. He blinked at me, slowly, like I was a particularly annoying fly. You touched the lamp. That's fatal in a stupid, careless kind of way. I should curse you, but honestly, I'm too tired for your nonsense. I smirked. Fatal? Really? I was hoping for dramatic, deadly, but right now, just getting me out of here should do. First wish, he said, voice dripping with sarcasm. Get me out of here. I blinked. I didn't. Whoosh. I was suddenly hurled out of the vault and into a freezing sandstorm, sand stabbing my skin like tiny judgmental knives. I coughed, sputtered, and flailed. Hey, this is not what I meant by get me out of here. Azar, that's what he introduced himself as mid-cough, just stood on a dune, arms crossed, looking like I'd just personally ruined his millennium. Technically, you wished it. I delivered, I coughed up a mouthful of sand. Okay, fine. Food. Let's fix this. Wishing for a snack is safe, right? Next thing I knew, I was buried under a mountain of exploding pomegranates. Juice everywhere, red and sticky, seeping into my hair. Ah! Stop it! I screamed, punching fruit that had zero remorse. Azar raised a perfectly sculpted brow. I technically granted it. Maybe you should read the instructions next time. Okay, last wish, I muttered, wiping sticky seeds from my face. Gold. Simple. Easy. Me. Rich. Happy Ping. I froze. My skin hardened. My arms. My chest. Everything. Mirror shiny gold. My reflection in the nearby dune looked spectacular, if a little tragic. Azar sighed, rubbing his temples. Congratulations. You are now a literal golden statue. Genius, really. And somehow, even buried under sand, juice, and now, shimmering like a failed wax sculpture, I felt a spark of something dangerous, something I wasn't supposed to feel for a grumpy, sarcastic, impossible immortal. Azar glared, I smirked, and chaos, as they say, officially began. A few hours later. I had barely started admiring the golden lamp when Azar finally decided to speak. "Before you do anything, thief," he said, arms crossed, green eyes boring into mine. "Some important rules. And yes, they do matter." I raised an eyebrow. Rules? I thought this was about wishing and chaos. "Technically," he said, voice flat, "but listen. First, you can make as many wishes as you like. Don't get greedy, don't get sloppy. But the choice is yours." I blinked. "Unlimited wishes?" This just got interesting. "Second," he continued, voice darkening slightly, "you must return me to the ancient temple of Alzara. You have 7 days to do it. No magic shortcuts, no teleporting me back while I sleep. You travel yourself." "And if I don't?" I asked, already guessing the answer. "You lose a year of your life for each day you fail to deliver me," he said flatly. "No exceptions. No excuses. No whining." I swallowed. "Unlimited wishes, but you're basically putting a timer on my life." Charming. "Third, this is a journey. You do the work. No magic for transport. No quick fixes. You are now responsible for keeping me alive and yourself sane until the temple." I nodded slowly, heart thudding. Unlimited wishes, chaotic fun, and 7 days to survive, travel, and make sure Azar survived as well. Piece of cake, right? Guess you want me to crawl across the desert on all fours, huh? I'd rather be a camel than hike all that way. Azar smirks. "Wish granted," he intones. Before I could even begin overthinking it, he flicked his fingers. And suddenly, my legs stretched, my back arched, and my face got this long, snuffling snout thing going on. If you ever wondered what it feels like to literally become a camel, let me save you the trouble. It's cold, itchy, and extremely undignified. "You did what now?" I bellowed, wobbling on 4 legs. "I gave you enhanced transportation," Azar said, arms crossed, looking like he'd just invented the concept of disappointment itself. "You didn't specify the form." I flailed my front legs, almost tipping into a cactus. Sand stung my nose, my ears flopped dramatically, and I made a sound that was part scream, part sneeze, part profanity. Azar sighed. "Congratulations, Kai. You are now a majestic camel. A majestic, idiot camel." I had no choice but to slide down a dune, tumbling headfirst into the one thing I definitely didn't want. Quicksand. Naturally, quick. Sand. Naturally. "Azar, help!" I shrieked, struggling like an over-caffeinated kitten. He floated down lazily, green eyes glinting with mischief. "Technically, I saved you already. You just have to interpret my magic literally." I glared, sand in my eyes, pride in tatters, and started plotting my revenge. Because yes, rules, curses, life loss, 7-day deadlines, and camel transformation aside, I was still going to make this fun. I rolled my eyes so hard I swear they nearly got stuck. Finally, with a flick of his fingers and a very dramatic sigh, he yanked me free, leaving me covered in sand, cactus needles, and whatever shame is measured in camel units. Then the sandstorm hit. Perfect timing. Sand sliced my skin like tiny knives, whipped my hair into a nest of despair, and clogged my every orifice. I was choking, hacking, flailing, and cursing the entire universe. Azar, naturally, strode elegantly through the storm, robes flowing, hair shimmering, completely unscathed. "Stay close," he called, "or you'll get lost." Again, I squinted at him through grit. "I'm right here, and I may die first, but at least I'll die stylishly. Markets are dangerous, yes, but they're also perfect for theft. which is why I was already creeping toward a very fat, very distracted prince. His jeweled belt was practically screaming my name. Easy, I muttered to myself, fingers twitching. One smooth, ugh! If only these idiots could just disappear for a second so I can actually get some work done, I muttered under my breath. Azar's voice. Done. Then everything went invisible. Poof. The crowd, the merchants, the guards, gone. Just me. I froze. Slowly, panic rising. Azar, where is everyone? From the shadows, his voice drifted, calm and dripping with condescension. Technically, I made everyone invisible. You didn't specify if you should be included? I glared, trying to maintain my dignity as I tripped over a cart that was still solidly there, of course. Produce flew everywhere. You're impossible! Azar strolled through the chaos, hands tucked behind his back, looking like a man who had solved a minor inconvenience called me. You love this chaos, don't you? I couldn't argue. I did love it. But also, I might die from humiliation if a guard or invisible fruit hit me. The prince, of course, freaked out, yelling about curses, invisible thieves, and why is my crown floating? I tried to pickpocket him anyway, because principles of thievery, obviously. Fingers brushed gold, and zap, it slipped right into a magical pocket Azar had conjured for fun. Careful, thief, Azar murmured, eyes narrowing. Next time, you'll get electrocuted for style points. I shot him a grin. You're really enjoying yourself, aren't you? Do not flatter me, he muttered, though a small smirk tugged at his lips. And even though I was caked in invisible dust, sweating, and nearly tripping over my own feet, I noticed a tiny flutter in my chest. The grumpy, impossibly gorgeous, sarcastic immortal was actually watching out for me. 2 days later, we'd just barely escaped the desert storm, my camel body trauma still fresh in memory, when a gang of bandits jumped us in a narrow canyon. Perfect, I muttered, tightening my cloak. Nothing like being mugged to test your charm. Azar rolled his eyes. You're going to flirt them to death? Exactly, I whispered, sidling toward the leader, flashing my best crooked grin. Hello, gentlemen. Handsome, yes. Dangerous, maybe. But I let my voice drop to a sultry whisper. Definitely irresistible. The bandit leader blinked, smirk cracking, clearly distracted. I seized the moment to swipe the gold chain dangling from his neck. Easy. Too easy. And that's when reality hit. A swinging scimitar slicing through the air, aimed squarely at my head. Yikes, I muttered, and before I could react, Azar muttered something under his breath. I felt weightless. Then suddenly I was hovering 3 feet above the ground, spinning slowly like some ridiculous magical ballerina, while the sword clanged harmlessly into a rock. I shot him a panicked glare. Really? You just rescued me mid-flirt? I technically saved you. Don't thank me, he grumbled, though his hand twitched as if ready to flick another bandit out of existence. He glared at me, but his hand lingered on my arm after pulling me from danger. You're exhausting, he grumbled. But in his eyes, for a second, I saw something gentle. Barely, but enough. I landed, trying to hide my racing heartbeat and very obvious admiration. You're impressive. Do not, he snapped. Do not. I rolled my eyes but couldn't stop myself from smirking. Oh, I'm so doomed. Later, the desert night was cold, the wind still howling, but somehow we'd survived. I huddled in a tattered tent, shivering, when I noticed Azar had a nasty cut on his arm, probably from one of the flying rocks in the canyon. Here, I said, wincing as I dabbed at the blood with a bit of cloth. Don't move. He stiffened. I'm fine. I don't. Shut up. You look ridiculous when you argue, I interrupted, ignoring his scowl. For a moment, the chaos and sarcasm faded. He let me clean the cut, gritting his teeth as I fussed. His green eyes softened, watching me with something I didn't understand, a vulnerability hidden beneath centuries of grumpiness. "You're ridiculously stubborn," I said, almost whispering. "I could say the same about you," he replied, voice low. Then immediately, "But don't. It'll ruin my mood." For once, Azar just watched, letting me fuss. He muttered, "You're an idiot for getting involved." But his voice was softer than before, and when my hand covered his, he didn't move away. Instead, he almost smiled, just a twitch, like it physically hurt him to be happy. "Most people use their wishes to get away from me," he added quietly. "Not you." I caught a flicker of something more in his expression before he turned away, muttering about sand, blood, and my idiocy. But my chest? It didn't lie. That tiny moment, the soft exhale, the way his hand lingered slightly longer than necessary, it mattered. For the first time, I realized this wasn't just about surviving the chaos, or the curses, or the exploding pomegranates. I didn't want him gone. A while later. The night was quiet, if you could call a desert with howling wind quiet. Stars stretched above us, glittering, indifferent to our little lives, or my constant whining. I sat cross-legged, polishing a dagger I probably shouldn't have brought, while Azar sat a few feet away, arms folded, looking like the most annoyed statue in the universe. I finally broke the silence. "So, why are you really doing this? I mean, saving me, putting up with my disasters, the camel thing?" Azar didn't answer at first, just stared at the horizon, jaw tight. The wind tossed his hair across his face, brushing my hand as I reached for my water skin, and my stomach did that weird flip that I'd been trying to ignore since the desert fiasco. "Fine," he muttered, voice low, rough, almost bitter. "You want the truth? Here's your truth, thief." I leaned in, intrigued. "Hit me with it." "I wasn't always a genie," he said. "I was a warrior centuries ago. Loyal, strong, capable. And I betrayed someone I loved. My heart skipped. Betrayed? Someone he loved? The sorcerer, my lover, yes, cursed me into this lamp for eternity. And now every term of fate you complete," he said, voice tighter, almost breaking. "Makes me weaker, flickers me, until I might not even exist when this is over." I blinked. "Wait, so if we finish this, you could, poof, gone?" He didn't answer, just looked away, jaw tight, arms crossed like he could hold himself together with sheer willpower. And suddenly I realized I didn't care about curses or treasure or clever escapes. I cared about him. I swallowed hard. "Azar, He snapped his head. To look at me, green eyes blazing, but there was something fragile underneath the glare. "Don't. Say it. I'm warning you, thief. Don't get attached. It'll only hurt you." I clenched my fists, heart hammering. "Too late," I muttered. He didn't argue. He didn't smile. But for a heartbeat, long enough for me to notice, the corner of his mouth twitched. Maybe he was glad. Maybe he hated that he was glad. The desert wind whipped around us, carrying grit and sand, but for once, neither of us moved. Just stared, the tension thick, messy, dangerous. I didn't know if I was terrified of losing him or terrified of realizing I'd already fallen. Maybe both. One thing was certain. This was no longer just a chaotic road trip. This was personal. This was dangerous. And somehow, impossibly, it was also kind of beautiful. 2 mornings later, we reached the temple just as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky blood orange. Dust swirled in the air, the walls crumbling like they'd had enough of existence. Azar's hand brushed mine as we stepped inside, and I swear my chest skipped a beat. "Don't get distracted, idiot," I muttered internally. Of course, the distraction didn't last long. The floor beneath us cracked, crack, and chunks of stone fell into an abyss below. Azar's eyes glinted green, voice tight. "This is it, Kai. The final term. Use your wish wisely." I nodded, heart pounding. Final wish. Don't screw this up. But as we moved deeper, the temple groaned like it had a personal vendetta against us. Stones fell, walls tilted, and I ended up clinging to Azar like a desperate cat while he floated gracefully above the rubble. Maybe this is where I say I love you? I joked weakly, though the tremor in my voice betrayed me. Shut up, he snapped, though his grip tightened slightly. We reached the altar. The lamp shimmered faintly, hovering above a pedestal, humming like it knew exactly what was coming. My hands hovered over it, hesitation knotting my stomach. Do I wish for myself? For treasure? Or for him? My gaze flicked to Azar, the green of his eyes, the way his jaw was set, the subtle tremor in his stance. I didn't need a second thought. I wish you'd live, I whispered, voice breaking slightly. Just you. That's it, the old magic echoed, voices in my head. A selfless wish for the imprisoned heart. The curse is lifted. Freedom is given. The lamp exploded in a burst of golden light, so bright it blinded me. Azar screamed, not in anger, not in pain, but in shock, fury, and disbelief all at once. Azar's last look was equal parts wonder and terror. You broke it. You freed me. You idiot, he yelled. That was your final wish. I coughed through the dust, tears stinging. I said it. You're alive. That's all I wanted. And then he was gone. Just gone. The light dimmed, leaving nothing but a faint golden glow where he'd been. I staggered, chest tight, heart hammering. For the first time, the chaos, the sarcasm, the flirting, none of it mattered. Only him. I sank to my knees, hands shaking. I fell for him. Hard. And now he's gone. A little while later, I stumbled out of the temple ruins, the sand sticking to every inch of me like some cruel reminder. My hands shook, my chest burned, and for the first time I felt small, helpless, and completely, utterly alone. Weeks passed. I tried the usual tricks, sneaking through markets, stealing crowns, charming nobles, leaving a trail of chaos in my wake. But it was all hollow. Every heist felt like moving through a haze, every clever escape like a bad joke with no punchline, and everywhere I went, I saw him. The camel fiasco, me flailing like a living broomstick in the desert, Azar sighing and saving me anyway. Exploding pomegranates, red juice dripping down my hair, and him muttering, "Technically, you asked for food." Invisible market chaos, me tripping over empty stalls, cursed to be the only visible idiot while he watched silently, arms folded, smirking. Bandit ambush, flirting my way out of death while he levitated me midair, scowling like he hated saving me. Sandstorm night, wiping grit from his cheek, feeling that weird warmth in my chest I'd tried to ignore. Every memory made me wince. Every memory made me ache. Every memory reminded me that the man I'd fallen for, the grumpy, impossible, sarcastic, immortal, was gone. The lamp sat in my pack, glowing faintly like it knew it had just won some cosmic joke. I muttered curses at it, whispered apologies to the wind, even threatened it once for good measure. Do you know what it's like to have the one person who makes every chaos worth it vanish? At night, I lay on sand that burned cold in the moonlight, staring at stars, imagining his green eyes glinting with that infuriating half-smile. I could almost hear him muttering under his breath, "You're ridiculous, you know that?" But he wasn't there. He couldn't be. And then came the worst part, laughter in my mind. His laughter, sharp, sarcastic, and deadly charming. I blinked, heart hammering, and realized some part of me had been stolen along with him. The thief who had stolen crowns, gold, and hearts had just lost the one heart that actually mattered. I clenched my fists, sand slipping through my fingers. I swore, loudly and creatively, that I would somehow find him. Somehow. And if the universe thought this was over, it was wrong. Dead wrong. Because no temple, no curse, no magical lamp could keep me from chasing the grumpy immortal who had accidentally stolen me first. A few weeks later, it had been weeks, maybe months I stopped counting, since the temple, since him. I was back to my old life, sneaking through ballrooms, slipping past guards, charming nobles, and leaving a trail of chaos and glittered coin purses behind me. But I'd changed. Quieter, smarter, lonelier, less reckless. Tonight, I was at the royal gala, eyeing the Sultan's jewel-encrusted dagger like it was a candy bar I couldn't wait to steal. I'd timed my approach perfectly. Servants distracted, guards busy with hors d'oeuvres, and me, confident. And then, snap, a hand clamped down on my shoulder. Trying to steal the Sultan's favorite toy again? A familiar voice drawled. I froze. Slowly, I turned. And there he was. Green eyes, long hair, that annoyed but glorious expression that made my chest seize. Azar. Human. Alive. Real. You're alive! How? I stammered, my mouth suddenly useless. Your stupid, reckless wish, he says, trying and failing not to look relieved, was the loophole. You wished for me. Not for fortune, not for escape. For me to live. The lamp, the curse, it twisted for centuries to punish me. Never once did it allow for mercy. Turns out, you can break even fate with enough stubbornness. Apparently, you can say, he said dryly, hands on his hips, the universe took pity on me. Lucky you, I blinked. Lucky me? You literally disappeared. He cut me off, smirking. Don't start whining. You still owe me for the camel incident? I'll remind you it was your magic. I shot back, circling him like a cat ready to pounce. I can't believe you're human, I said, poking his chest. You, standing here, breathing, mocking me. I could say the same about you, he countered, leaning closer. Still reckless, still infuriating, still... Handsome? I supplied, voice dropping, heart hammering. He froze. His smirk twitched. Then, in true Azar fashion, he shoved me, playfully, dangerously, into a nearby wall. Stop it, he growled. Stop what? I asked, grinning. Loving you? Too late. The words hung in the air like sparks. He stared, jaw tight, green eyes blazing with something I didn't have words for. And then, he kissed me. Fierce, impatient, perfect. Everything about him that had haunted my nightmares and my fantasies collided in that one heart-pounding moment. I melted into it, fingers threading through his hair, heart hammering, brain screaming chaos, lungs screaming finally. When we finally pulled apart, both of us breathless, I whispered, "Don't vanish again." He smirked. "I'll try not to. But I make no promises about the chaos. Works just fine for me," I said, smiling as I pulled him once more, never to let him go ever again. A few months later, the market was alive with noise, color, and chaos. Perfect cover for two very terrible, very charming thieves. I darted between stalls, fingers itching for anything shiny, while Azar floated just behind me, smirking like a predator who also happened to be my boyfriend. "Careful," he muttered, voice low. "That guard looks suspicious." I grinned, brushing past a vendor. "Suspicious?" "He looks delicious, and by that I mean ripe for pickpocketing," Azar groaned, waving a hand. Suddenly, the coins in the vendor's belt jingled and vanished, right into my pocket. I gave him a cheeky wink. "Thanks for the assist, partner." The coins didn't exactly vanish. They sort of wobbled, took a lazy loop in the air, and rattled into my palm one by one. Azar shrugged, almost sheepish. Turns out being human means magic's more like good sleight of hand. Don't get your hopes up for miracles, thief. He rolled his eyes but didn't scold me, just flicked his fingers, making the nearby fruit cart wobble ominously, sending a barrel of apples rolling into the path of the approaching guards. Perfect distraction. I spun around, laughing, snatching a jeweled necklace from a distracted noble. Nice work! He gave me a mock glare, but the corner of his lips twitched upward. Try not to get us arrested this time, thief, relax, I said, looping my arm through his. You're the one with the magic, remember? Technically, I could get caught, and you'd save me. He huffed, but before he could respond, I tripped on nothing, of course, and nearly fell face first into a pile of melons. Azar grabbed my arm mid-fall, pulling me upright, his chest pressed to mine for a brief, terrifyingly intimate moment. Clumsy, he muttered. Lucky, I whispered, smirking up at him. Then a guard rounded the corner. Perfect timing. I winked at Azar. Time for chaos. He flicked his fingers, muttering an incantation. The guard froze mid-step, eyes wide, and then suddenly he was doing an elaborate, awkward dance in the middle of the street. I snorted, scooping up a few coins Azar had conjured, and we sprinted off, laughing, dodging carts, narrowly missing barrels, hearts pounding. By the time we ducked behind a fountain, both of us breathless, Azar leaned down, brushing a lock of hair from my face. You're ridiculous, he said. And you love it, I shot back, looping my arm through his again. He smirked, green eyes sparkling. Infuriatingly, yes, I laughed, tossing him a coin. Then let's go find more trouble. And as we melted into the crowd, weaving through chaos, laughter, and glittering magic, the lamp on my back hummed faintly, as if already plotting our next disaster. Almost a year later. The tavern smelled of roasted meat, spilled ale, and me. Probably mostly me. I slid onto a bench beside Azar, who was nursing a cup of tea like a gentleman pretending not to notice the chaos erupting around us. Do you ever stop causing trouble? I asked, tossing him a grin as I plucked a coin from a distracted bard's pocket. I try, he said dryly, though the corner of his mouth twitched. But apparently you have standards. I leaned in, brushing my shoulder against his. I have style, thank you very much. Azar sighed, but his green eyes glinted with amusement. Style? More like reckless charm? I laughed, looping an arm through his. Reckless charm works. Just ask the bandits, the princes, the camel. He groaned, cutting me off. Don't you dare start the camel incident again. Ah, too late, I said, smirking. It's legendary. We leaned back, sipping drinks, sharing smirks, teasing insults, comfortable in chaos. And around us, the tavern buzzed with whispers. The thief and the bodyguard. Did you hear? They stole a crown from the Sultan last week. Right under his nose, I chuckled, nudging Azar. Sounds like we're famous. He raised an eyebrow, unimpressed, or pretending to be. Famous for being idiots. I can live with that. We leaned back, sipping drinks, sharing smirks, teasing insults, comfortable in chaos. He tried to make a coin float across the table. It twitched, slipped out of his fingers, rolled in a wobbly line, and fell in my lap instead. Maybe you're just mostly magic now, I teased. Azar rolled his eyes, but he didn't hide the little twist of a smile. I winked at the lamp on the shelf, glowing faintly, just enough to make the coin I'd just nicked rattle. It hummed softly, as if whispering, You two are far from done. I glanced at Azar, who was busy rolling his eyes at a drunken bard trying to pickpocket him. I grinned. Looks like the universe isn't done with us either. He smirked, leaning close. Then I guess we'd better not be either. And as laughter, magic, and minor chaos swirled around us, I realized something. The adventures weren't over. Not for us. Not while we had each other. Because a thief and her grumpy, impossible, immortal turned human partner, that's a recipe for endless trouble, endless laughter, and, secretly, endless love. The lamp gave one last faint magical wink from the shelf. I smirked. Ready, partner? Azar sighed, but that familiar, infuriating, utterly irresistible smirk tugged at his lips. Unfortunately, yes. The end. If you found a hot, grumpy genie, would you fight, flirt, or just survive the chaos? Thanks for watching. Subscribe to become part of our Rainbow Force, and consider joining our membership for early access and exclusive content. Stay wholesome.